The Røde Streamer X is a product that I wish would have came out years ago. For a lot of people, especially content creators, this could be the one device to rule them all. The Røde Streamer X might be the perfect companion product for anyone that does live streams, gaming, remote podcasts, solo podcasts, or even just content creation in general. It brings all of the things that you need into one device. Now, when I say that I wish this product would have came out years ago, let me be clear about one thing. Blackmagic did come out with a product at the end of 2019. It is the Ultra Studio 4K Mini, and it did combine XLR and HDMI. Would have been great for live streaming and everything. I mean, I will say the Blackmagic is a little bit more advanced. It has SDI and everything as well. But at the same time, even with those advanced features, it doesn't really cater to creators. But also that Blackmagic product to this day is still $1,055. So initially when the Streamer X came out at $399, I will admit, I was one of the people that was like, that seems too expensive. Guilty. I will also admit that I wasn't positive everything it did. So once I figured out what the Streamer X is capable of, I changed my tune. I did. I'm not going to tell you exactly how I feel about it quite yet. And in fact, in this review today, I'm going to go through, a lot of the features and a lot of the specs and everything this is capable of. But I feel like I need to put it through some more live streams. I've done a couple practice live streams as well as one members only live stream, and it did work well. As products like this come out, it can be kind of hard to just do a single review. And that might seem weird, but the reason is this. Firmware updates and software releases make it really difficult to just come out with one review and be done with it. So I decided to tackle this in a couple different ways. So this one will kind of be my initial review overview. We'll do a couple tests and everything, but then my next one's going to be a little bit more of a long-term test. And then I'll give you my full recommendation review. But speaking of testing this out and everything, I do want to mention that Rode did in fact send me the Streamer X so I could review it. Just an honest review. They are not paying me. This is not a sponsored review. Before this whole review, I will be using the Rode Streamer X. Currently, you've been listening to the audio through it, and if you've noticed down in the lower third, I've actually been telling you what kind of video I've been using, whether it's coming from the Rode Unify, which I'm recording into my computer, or the internal recording in my Sony. I'm just recording it straight into OBS, and I'm mostly just curious the quality we can get to there. So I thought that'd be kind of an interesting test just to see if there's any difference. But speaking of me using the Streamer X for audio, this is in fact the new Rode Podmic USB. However, I'm not using it as a USB mic because I'm going into the Streamer X right now. So I'm using it as an XLR mic with this gorgeous premium XLR cable from Rode. But let me just do a quick overview of this device, everything that's on it, how to use everything on it, and what you can expect from it. Now, instead of talking about the fun, colorful, playful part of the Streamer X first, you really want to get to know the ins and outs, so let's talk about the back first. Now, starting on the left, this is a USB-C port. This is where you would plug in your power adapter if you are going to be using the Streamer X with your phone. If you are not using it with your phone, you can actually just plug it into one of the two USB-C options on the back. They are labeled 1 and 2, and these actually do give you an option to plug in a secondary device, like 2 computers. Next to that are the 2 HDMI plugs. The first one is the through output, and then the next one is the input. The input is where you will plug in your video source, like your camera. Next to that, you will see a 3.5mm plug, and then next to that is a 1/4" plug. The 3.5mm plug is for a headset if you're going to be using a headset with a microphone. And then next to that is your standard 1/4" headphone jack. And now we get to the XLR combo jack. This is in fact a Neutrik plug. This is where you can plug in your XLR microphone or a 1/4" input. But next to that combo jack, there is a button that allows you to turn on 48 volts of phantom power. Now on the bottom of the Streamer X, it might be one of my favorite additions that they also added on the RodeCaster Pro II, but it is a 1/4" mount. As long as you have something with a 1/4" threading or an adapter, you can mount this to anything. Now to get to the fun, colorful part. On the top side of the Streamer X, starting on the left, you will have a microphone gain control, but it is also a button. If you press the dial in, it'll switch between a microphone input, a headset input, or a wireless input. The wireless input is compatible with the Rode Wireless Go 2 or the Rode Wireless Me. Now, as I mentioned, that is also a microphone gain control, so if you turn that to the right, it will add gain to your microphone. Underneath that, you will see a big green microphone button. If you press that button, it'll turn red and mute your microphone. A lot like this. Microphone. Now you can hear me again. There you go. That's how mute works. Now, to the right of the microphone dial is the headphone volume control dial, and if you press that headphone dial in, it will mute your headphones. Underneath that, you'll see one additional big green light with a little camera on it. I'm sure you can guess what happens if I press that button. It will kill the video feed. Now, on the right side of the StreamerX, you will see the smart pads. A lot of people will call these sound pads or like sample pads, but they do a lot more than just play a sound. Now, underneath those smart pads is a left and a right arrow. That allows you to go to the next page of smart pad options, so it's not limited to just 4 total things. You can customize even more. And the StreamerX actually does have 2 gigabytes of internal storage for these smart pads. Now, in order to customize these sound pads, you can download and use Rode Central. Currently, the beta for Rode Central is the only one that's out, so I don't have a way to show you Unify right now, but I will show you that in the next video. Here you can choose whether you want each individual smart pad to play a sound effect, whether that be an air horn or your own theme song, or you can even choose to enable some vocal effects, such as vocal disguise and a bunch of other kind of silly things. In addition to that, you do have the mixer option, which will actually allow you to do some fades in and out. But probably the coolest thing is that you can use these smart pads as MIDI control. And one additional thing that you will see on the bottom right is presentation mode. You're able to use this with PowerPoint as well as some other softwares like Google Slides. But in Rode Central, you can go in and adjust the audio setup. Here is where you can actually choose whether you want to use a microphone, a headset, or a wireless lav system. You can do it on the actual device, but it is nice to have that functionality within the software as well. But in the audio setup, you can customize the levels for the stream and headphone mix. So you can choose how loud your microphone is going to the stream or in your headphones. Same goes for the sound effects or the smart pads, the HDMI, as well as USB 1 and 2. They do also have some presets down below that you can choose between. But within that audio setup, you can actually select the little settings gear down below, and that will take you to the area where you can adjust your onboard DSP. Now, much like the RodeCaster Pro II, this will have the depth, sparkle, and punch option, but it will also have those advanced options as well. Those DSP effects include a high-pass filter, a de-esser, a noise gate, a compressor, an EQ, an aural exciter, a big bottom, and panning. But here you can also adjust if you're using phantom power or if you're using an instrument, and you can also change your gain here. The only other thing that Rode Central offers currently, I'm sure this is going to change eventually, is just the device configuration where you can go and change how bright the lights are on the StreamerX device. That's a quick overview of the StreamerX, but let me tell you some specifics that are important. The microphone preamp on the StreamerX will give you 76 decibels of gain. It has a maximum sample rate of 48 kilohertz at 24-bit, a frequency response of 20 Hz to 20 kilohertz. It has a dynamic range of 113 decibels, and an EIN of negative 131.5 dBV, A-weighted. Now, the video specs, this does have an HDMI 2.0. The HDMI through option can pass through 4K at 60 frames per second, but with the HDMI in, you can actually stream at up to 4K 30 frames per second, at 1440 at 60 frames per second, 1080 at 120 frames per second, or at 1080 HDR at 60 frames per second. Now, obviously, all the specs and all the features are what make this exciting. From an audio standpoint, it's really interesting because the XLR port on this is basically just a channel from the RodeCaster Pro II. You can get some really great audio from the RodeCaster Pro II. I've used it for quite a while. I use it on a lot of my podcasts, and I've been really happy with it. Now, when it comes to the StreamerX build quality, I feel like it just feels like a mini, more compact RodeCaster Pro II. Both devices are built well. They're not all metal or anything, but they're still good. And I will say that the buttons, when you press them and you spin the dials and everything, feels nice. Feels real good. Feels real good. When it comes to my workflow, I'm not really like a sample pad, smart pad user, but it's not to say they couldn't be helpful in some different ways. I definitely think they could. And it is cool that Rode lets you go in and customize them as much as you want. You can use a megaphone with an echo effect if you would like. You can do that.
Or you can disguise your voice just enough to make people uncomfortable. You don't want to go too low or too high, just enough to weird people out.
And you know that sometimes I could drop a swear word. Sometimes I'll just be like, or like, I didn't know this until a second ago, but to see if the lights changed when I was clipping or anything, I did a deep metal scream into the microphone. And the light will turn red when you are clipping or about to clip, which is very nice. I was actually a little bit bugged that this didn't have some sort of metering thing on it, so it is nice that you at least have that little light indicate if you're too loud. Now, with the features and everything, I think there are a lot of amazing capabilities with this product. One of the things that I really, really like about this, even though I'm not the kind of person that usually uses wireless lavs for myself, but the fact that this has a wireless receiver just built right into it is so cool. In fact, I have the Rode Wireless Go 2 transmitter right here. Let's test it out. Now, just to show you that it works, here's the Wireless Go 2, just going directly, it's wirelessly going into the StreamerX. Here's how that sounds. But here's just a real quick example of that. But with this having wireless capabilities and also being able to plug into your phone and stream from essentially your phone, it makes this a pretty portable device. Now, with your phone, it does need power plugged in, but there are ways around this. This only requires 5 volts. So, I mean, you could use it with a V-mount battery potentially. And that's another thing that I'd be interested in trying. But like I said, I wanted to give you a bit of an overview today and everything it's capable of, do a few tests, but also I personally want to test it a little bit more. So I'm going to continue to do that with my remote podcast, some live streams that I have planned coming up. And then I'll make a follow-up video here in the future. If I've made that video and it's been a little while since I've released this one, I'll link it down in the description if you want to watch the next part and it's available. But some of my first impressions of the StreamerX is that it's going to be an absolute workhorse for me. I could see myself using this a lot, and I could see myself just moving this into my workflow kind of permanently. If the video quality that I'm recording right now is as good or close to as good as the internal recording that I'm getting from my Sony a7 IV, I might just record videos straight to my laptop, don't need to transfer the little SD card, have the audio baked in, and we are money. So overall, I am currently happy with this device. And in fact, maybe in my second video for this, kind of more of a long-term review, I could still do some of the tests that you want me to do. So definitely leave the comments down below of what you'd like me to test. But hopefully this overview, kind of initial review, helped you out. And I do want to give a big thank you to all the members of the audio hotline. They are just... no words. No words. But also a big thank you to Rode for sending me this fun gear to try out. But once again, thank you all for watching this first impressions overview video of the Rode Streamer X. I'll see you audio nerds next time.